apply. I don't know why, but okay, cool.
Change my
Who
room.
knew? All right, recording is started. Okay.
I'm in a different room now.
There you are. Can you hear us now, Mike?
Yawning already? We just started. We're like 2 minutes in.
I'm so tired. I was already nodding out on the couch.
Oh my
I
God.
want to
Yeah,
have
for
I
sure.
would have a cup of coffee, but then it keeps you up all night, you know? So I don't know. Just gonna drink water and do my best.
Power through it. Yeah.
You're right.
That's right.
One of
Power
those days.
Now,
Whoa.
can you hear me or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, see, you're saying you can hear me. I can't hear anybody, and I don't know why.
Can you
We
hear
hear
me
you,
now?
Mike.
No, we can't hear.
Oh boy.
That's fine. So he'll have to do all the talking and we'll just listen.
Like usual.
John is on too.
There comes Jack.
Or Jack, I mean, not
I
Jack.
got you, Jack.
I knew that.
How are you? Good.
Okay. I'm gonna turn off the old camera. Fix my hair. Sorry, I know the recording is starting. Some really
We're not-
highbrow stuff going on.
I don't think we have a quorum anyway yet, do we? So it doesn't matter. None of this counts, right?
Do we not?
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, all right.
There's
Check.
4 of us.
1, 2.
Yep.
Are we keeping you up, Kim?
Sorry. I don't know what to do about it.
Looks like Ellen's on too, right?
Yes.
There you are. Hi. Okay. At some point, we probably need to get started.
Hmm. Mike, you want me to start?
He can't hear you.
Oh,
Hmm.
I tried doing the messaging thing. Where did Ellen go? There she is.
mm-mm. Mm.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Mm-mm.
You guys still can't hear me, right?
We can hear you.
Yes,
You can
we
hear me.
can.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I can't hear any of you.
So
Yes,
Yep.
Right.
we
Right,
can
well then-
hear.
What I'm going
you.
to ask, I believe I can share the screen from
Space.
here. I've just got to open up. What I want to do is bring up the PowerPoint that Kim sent over.
Message failed. Oh, message sent failure. That sounds like you just got it. Heather, did you just get the text I sent?
No, I
It sounds,
didn't.
I asked if he wanted me to call Lonnie and see if Lonnie could help.
I didn't get a message from Eugene. Sorry.
Right.
Not
Yeah, I
sure.
sent it. I tried to text Mike, if we could get him to call in and,
I've said that, yeah, a couple times.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Chief Kessler. Yes, good
Yeah.
idea.
What did you say?
Get him a call. Do you want me to text him or call him?
Yeah, I just tried texting him and told him to, call in.
Oh, okay, good. Thanks,
Maybe,
Chief.
maybe you can try
I
and,
just texted him too.
Yeah,
all right.
okay, thanks. Thanks.
Let's get in the text. Hear them ding?
Okay, can you hear?
Yep, there's an
Yes.
echo, Mike. If you called in, you'll need to shut off the audio from your computer.
Right, that's what I'm trying to do right now. Okay, what's that?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Okay. So I've got my microphone muted now on the computer.
Yep, much better.
Okay. All right, can you see the, and I believe I'm already recording. I've been recording for a while. So
Yeah.
we did call the meeting to order. Kim, I'm going to ask you to walk us through. Obviously, the original plan was to begin going through the budget with the various departments. Kim has not met with the selectmen about this yet. So she put together a PowerPoint, and then I have a few questions for her, and I hope we could open the floor up and discuss some things. But I believe I'm sharing the
Yep,
budget
you are. Yep.
So
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, let's get to it. All right. So let's do the overview first, very quick, couple of slides, just to give you the 360-degree view, right? So we can see a little bit here. Right now, the budget is currently balanced. You can see at the bottom, it's a 0, right? This budget, as it's balanced right now, is based upon my current recommendations that I'll be making to the select board, based upon requests that we might have received, and basically based increases or other budget drivers, and we'll look at that in more detail on the next slide. But the big things to look at just from this slide is, overall, the town's operation budget is up 5.3%. Just as a comparison, last year was 5.1, so that's not unusual. That's about where we trend. Right now, on the school side, I don't have a number for them, both either from BVT or from Nipmuc. So what I've budgeted for now is the 50-50 number we've talked about in the past, which is half of new growth, and
Right.
that number is
per second. I've got the current status of the budget, February 3rd, 2021. Where are you? What do you want me to have up here?
this slide.
Okay.
So you can see over on the edge, the first little note says town operations up 5.3, right? Details next slide. That what I'm telling you is last year was about 5.1. That's about where we trend. That's not statistically off. The next little note I have is that I've budgeted just under 3% for the schools. That's with having BVT flat, because we've had a decrease there the last couple of years, and putting in 315 for MERSDA, which is the 50-50 target number that we used to give when we could, which is half of new growth and 2.5. So right now, that's where that is. Whether that's their request or not, we have no idea, right? So the next thing is debt service has gone up a little bit. You'll remember that we did an additional bond issue for $1 million and change or so for the rest of the police stations. So a small amount has increased there. But overall, those increases is about, $770,000, which is about, a little less than 4%. On the revenue side, even though we don't talk about that too much, with FinCom, our budget, we're doing surprisingly well in the pandemic because, our budget is so small that we're basically protected. So we do have, you can see revenues are up like a little bit. New growth went up about $40,000. So we've got some change there. Local receipts went up a little bit. That's our excise tax. That's our meals tax. That's ambulance fees, that's all the other things, which is usually, like you can see, it's around $2.5 million. Not a ton of money, right? But, 20,000 up or down is, it looks like a significant change there. And then right now, the numbers aren't finalized at the state level. It looks like we'll have a slight reduction in state aid, but nothing significant. So overall, if the budget were to be approved tomorrow, this is what it would look like. We're still very early in the process, so these numbers will change. I'd say the good news here is that we've already got a handle on it, and it's the beginning of February. So that's, you know, we're in a good position. But here's why. So Mike, can you go to the next slide? So I met with all of the departments as I normally do, or I had them submit their budgets. We put the message out very early, and we've been saying it since last year, essentially, that financially the future is unknown at this point, and so this is not an ideal time to be making any significant requests or to be, you know, expecting any dramatic shifts in the budget. So almost entirely across the board, the departments haven't submitted any requests. There's very little funding available to even add things to the budget this year because we're basically flat. So from a budgeting standpoint, so far it's pretty simple, right? But when you have a budget that's this tight like this, it's going to be tricky when those school numbers do come in, because right now we're basically funding everything that we need to, right? Not the requests, but the necessaries, the needs, and it looks nice. But, you know, you'll hear Maruschek say this in his, you know, our budget drivers, okay? So just as an example, we brought in $420,000 in new growth this year, of which we give half away to the school. But here's the things in our budget that we can't even touch, right? Retirement's going up over $100,000 based upon the lowered age of the persons that have retired or early retired. So we're getting hit 18% here. There's nothing we can do about that. Insurance costs, we brought on an additional parcel of land, and that will, you know, increase the town's general liability. Medicare is also up.
I just have a rather than waiting to the end so I don't forget. The retirement piece, does that include OPEB health insurance for retired employees?
No. This is Worcester County Retirement. So negotiations, I have $40,000 budgeted. We are gonna negotiate with our 5 unions. We're starting right now. So what we do in those years is we don't budget any changes in the salary lines within the departments. We put all of the funding that we have available basically to hold our position, right, in a reserve for negotiations. Right now, that amount that I was able to put aside for this is about $40,000 divided by 5 unions. It's not going to go that far, but that's what we've got. You'll remember that we approved a fire engine. Now we got to start making payments on it. So that's about $77,000. The chief and he can talk in more detail about this, but there were increased costs based upon the amount of staffing that we have to do based upon vacancies or medical leaves within the fire department that we are responsible to cover with overtime or part-time staffing or otherwise. And so that is there. The trash contract also is going up $27,000 this year. And as I mentioned, $20,000 more coming online for the additional debt payment for the police station. So $429,000 of what we had, there it is. That's our budget in a nutshell. If you go to the next slide, Mike. So you can just wait 1 second. So you can see of this. Go back 1 second. 429 is what we needed on the town operations side, right? I'm assuming 315 for the schools. So you see the total down here is 770. So, I mean, quick math, that leaves us about $50,000, right? Just to live off of for this next year. So go to the next slide, Mike. So departments did have some requests. Like I said, they were not substantial. And in fact, the largest request actually on this list is my own personal preference. We have, the chief is trying to complete the town's mission based upon the study we did for the fire department a couple years ago about fully staffing it, which was the expectation. And so he has a request in to finalize basically that staffing plan, which I'm not certain at this point we can actually do this next fiscal year, but certainly if the board says that it's what they want, we'll have to figure out a way to do that. As of this moment, I've put an additional $20,000 in road materials and contract, whatever, what is the other one? Contractual for renting the equipment. There's 20,000 there. I've put the balancer of what was left over in FinCom reserve, which is an increase of $7,100. The town clerk does have one request on her own for a salary increase. I am going to be recommending some sort of increase to my board based upon performance. I don't know that it's going to be her request, but I'm certainly going to promote something there, because when she came into the position, we brought her in at the base level because it was elected and we didn't know her qualification level. And certainly I think we can all attest that she's had a stellar year navigating the election. And so now would be the time, if possible, to make an adjustment there. And then my request, which is one that you've probably heard me say for the last 6 years, is that we need to have capital depreciation accounts, particularly in our departments that have vehicles or equipment, and 8-year plan of the value of Alan's stuff within his department is like annual payment about $131,000. I've actually cut that down even more to a 10 years, so it's only $105 a year. But that's a dream request. That's this is the target of where we should be request for a town, rather than funding everything from free cash when it becomes available. We need to be planning for the future. And that's it for the budget. And we can go through it and I can point out some of the things we've changed that look a little bit different. But the items in which, we are debating the value on, and when it comes to deciding whether or not it should be included in the town's budget for the year, it's a very small list this year. So that should either make our lives easier or harder. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out. So the last slide, there's only 2 things there. It basically just says the outstanding issues right now are whatever comes with the school, right? We always start off in this place, look good, feel good, budget is balanced, we feel like we're on top of it, we've managed our side of it responsibly, we've been efficient, and then a bomb comes in a couple weeks and I got to find a couple $100,000 more that I don't have. So if we can go to the actual budget, we can go through it pretty quickly.
Do we have any sense of the impact of COVID on the actual cost, the school cost for this year so far? Have we gotten any updates?
I don't, but what I will say is, and I think you know this because we talked about it 6 months or so ago, you remember that their original request was like $600,000 and we didn't give it to them. But then, they came back and asked for the money, basically what they didn't get from us from the CARES Act, and got it. So their budget is whole at this point from almost their original request. So I would find it odd if they pushed very hard this year, considering most of the funding that's coming in goes to the schools, right? Municipal aid's been tricky. So, but we don't know. So Heather,
I'm not
Heather,
sure.
Are you still the liaison? Sorry.
I thought so, but okay. I don't know if there's been a budget meeting. I mean, I haven't, I'm not sure. So, yeah. I think they're actually in relatively good shape because there was some stuff that was going to be reimbursed,
right?
Like PPE and certain things that they initially had the cost for. Certainly there were issues. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. This is from me listening to a school committee meeting. So.
It's early, right? They don't usually come
in
with
it is. The governor, right?
March, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
And Kim.
Yes.
Just a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Just by way of clarification, the town clerk salary piece, was that a line item for salary? That's sort of covering multiple people. Is that?
No, that's one person.
One person. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. You may recall that that's an elected position essentially, and any position that is the elected has the right to go on the floor and ask the town to modify the budget. I find it's best when the board or I are in support of that request to include it up front so that the town knows that we are, we think that this is a worthy use of funding. oftentimes we can't fund the entire piece, but we try to, come together somewhere.
And just to follow up, that increase, and these tend to, as you point out, when they come from the town meeting floor, they tend to be sort of emotional efforts as opposed to objective clinical assessments of like what the job entails, what the surrounding towns pay, the competitive sort of issue, notwithstanding the fact that it's elected. So we feel confident based on your assessment, your work with the Board of Selectmen, that is a reasonable increase under the circumstances.
Exactly. So actually I do. So there's a couple of significant changes in the way that the position is being performed from the way that it was being performed in the past, which is it's either, I have to pull up my spreadsheet, but the position in the past was only 32 hours. So some of this increase reflects the fact that she is working the position certainly up to the 40-hour mark that she's at. The other part is when we bring them in, it really isn't based upon anything except budgeting a filler, right? So I budget the lowest, oftentimes if it's a town position, I'll budget in the middle of the range just in case to basically protect myself. But this time we budgeted the lowest. I certainly think the performance and what I've seen is on par with the middle of the range for that position, which is still not very much money for what the job entails and the importance of the job. So, I think it's common knowledge that we pay the lowest of all of our neighboring towns in all of the positions mostly, right? And this is one of the dilemmas that Mendon has faced over the years.
Ask a question.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mike Amandale, I'd like to ask a question.
Okay. Hi, Mike.
Hi, the present salary right now is how much?
Hold on. Can anyone read this? It's so small. Mike, can you enlarge it?
Yeah.
Sure.
577.
There you go.
45 or 46, 577.
I'm just going to scroll.
That was 19. All right. 20 was 47, 239.
Right. So
Is
$47,000.
that one salary?
Yes.
That's the town clerk's salary.
Yes.
How many people are working in that office?
1.5. One in a 8-hour-a-week person.
So Kim, of the increase that's being requested, how much of that is increased hours and how much is it of that is pure promotion or pure salary hourly increase?
So I've increased the rate. The previous rate was $28.57. The rate that I'm recommending is $31.54, and then from 32 hours to 40 hours.
And what was the previous town clerk making before Ellen got elected? What, 2 years ago?
Yes. I have to open an old budget sheet. Hold on.
I'm looking here at line 161, town clerk salaries.
Mm-hmm.
FY 2019 is 45,577, but is that the first year? Ellen, you're on is that the first year that you took over as FY 19?
Yes, that was my first year.
You know what all right, I can pull it out of a book, but do you know what?
Let me just see if I can open another spreadsheet quick.
I believe it was in the $61,000 or $62,000 range.
I was gonna say 66.
Yeah,
But I could be just.
I don't have figures in front of me.
It's gonna take. Just hold on. I have to log onto the network to get into my files. Okay.
Okay, what I show.
I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. 1 second. Let's go back to, what day did you say? 19. So let's look at FY 18, right? Does that sound right?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
18 was 55,
Oh,
393.
you beat me. Oh.
It was 55.
And 17 was 54, 683.
Okay.
So basically it went 55 down to 45. So it dropped about $10,000 a year.
9,816.
So,
And that was still at a 32-hour,
That was
A
at
week?
32, yes.
Can I ask
Now,
what has made the job from 32 hours to 40? Is there additional responsibilities? What,
Go ahead, Ellen. You can take it if you want.
Well, I would say that she was probably also working more than 32, but didn't voice it. And quite frankly, this year, well, 2020, I should say, I was working far more than 40 hours a week. PEG, I didn't have access to for probably the first 4 months of COVID.
Mhm.
The elections portion was challenging. There was a lot of very labor intensive work that we had to do to get all those ballots out, 2,500 just by mail. So basically, the job really is a more than a 32-hour a week job. We just only get paid for 32 hours. Nothing's really changed. I don't take a lunch. I work right through from 8 to 4 every day. I work Fridays, sometimes at night. So some things haven't changed, but the election portion of it has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, and this is Jack. Just to be clear, my question was not in any way, shape, or form a criticism. It was just that I was looking for an understanding of what the arguments are in favor here, because as I see the line item here at 38%, unless you sort of unpack what that means, that is, there's a 25% increase in the work hours, right?
Mhm.
So the idea is that we're not starting from 38% because the work hours are changing. I'm just trying to anticipate what we're liable to run into on town meeting floor, and I just want to be in a position to make sure that we have our arguments, available to us, because this sheet is actually going to be, sort of like what folks are going to sort of like go off of. They'll see a 38% increase, and then everyone, without sort of a sufficient level of information, will probably have an emotional reaction to 38%. That's
and
all.
we'll have talking points. You know how it goes through with depending on who the moderator is this year, right?
It's
But,
still Jay this year.
Right.
this year. So we'll put it on someone will either no one will put it on a hold, and it'll just pass, or
Mhm.
they'll put a hold on that, and we'll be prepared to use your word, unpack it and explain. And again, of course, it's once the selectmen, the select board makes their decision, and then we talk it over further. But they've already, even though you haven't given them the budget yet, you're saying that they put this in as part of the request, that they are on board with a raise?
No, the Board of Selectmen have not reviewed this budget at all. These are my recommendations to
Okay,
that board.
So in the line, when you talked about, Board of Selectmen requests, that's your
Correct.
pitch to them.
Yes.
Okay,
I'd
So-
like to give one more talking point if I can.
absolutely.
So when I was elected, yes, they brought me in at the lowest rate, not knowing what they were going to get.
Mhm.
However, I was still required to do the exact same job the previous clerk was doing. There was no learning curve. You just hit the ground running, you get the same job. So for 3 years, performing the same job, and now with more responsibilities, added on with the way the elections have gone. That's 3 years that the town has saved about 10 grand a year on me,
Mhm.
when I was required to do the exact same job.
I'd say you were required to do more, quite frankly, but with the restrictions with COVID and voting and early, the increase in early voting, for
Mhm.
safety. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen as much have to be produced so quickly in regards to election security and safety. So, and we had no issues. So that's in itself is a testament.
This is still an elected position, correct?
Correct.
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 Mike, I suggest that we're not gonna make a decision tonight because we have to vote on each one of these.
Right.
We gotta see how everything else shakes out before we make a recommendation if we follow this or not.
Oh, I agree with you. All I was doing was, the original plan was, that the selectmen would have been able to start digesting this, and we were gonna start talking with department
Right.
head. When
Right.
Kim explained this to me, I don't like canceling meetings. Understanding we had to do that for a while when COVID started, but I didn't wanna start off the year, canceling it, so I thought we would get this overview, and I don't wanna get down into the weeds, but I do have some questions, that I think would be good for all of us to kind of get a handle on it. I'd like to, and Ellen, is there anything else that you want to add at this point, knowing this is, it's good information, but it's not going to be useful at this point, I think, to really discuss, unless there's something you really feel you need to add at this point.
No. I understand this is your preliminary talks, and it's just good to get the dialogue going.
Right. So, all right. So I'd like to circle back first. We had a special town meeting, obviously, that got postponed a couple of times, and then I think it was Lonnie Tinio and myself, along with town council, Ellen, Jay, and I think Dan Byer showed up. And obviously, we passed over everything except for the community preservation monies. And because we didn't have free cash certified. So the first thing is we do have free cash certified now. And can you just, what do you have that number in front of you, Kim?
562.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I had written 582, 520, but maybe
Yeah.
maybe
It's in that ballpark.
it was a preliminary number. So, at the time, my suggestion was that we, if we had that number, that we would, pick, I know it's typically, 10% for CapEx and, 10% for, to go into stabilization, and then the rest of it, I wanted to put in FinCom reserve so that we could move it if we needed to, depending what happened. But we're further down the road now. So what, have you talked to the selectmen, or what is the plan? What do we do with this money that's sitting here now that we have to move?
We don't do, there's nothing for us to do with it at this point. Free cash has to be allocated, has to be, recognized and allocated at a town meeting, which we would
Right.
do in May. And I mean, discussions about it right now, I mean, most of the board, from what I've heard, is not interested in really spending any of it. So I guess it's going to really depend on what recommendations come out of capital planning for potential equipment, if we're going to do that, or putting it into, back into stabilization and CapEx like we do. I mean, right now, it doesn't look like we need an influx of cash into the operating budget, but that could change. Depending on the time, one of the downfalls of not having this special town meeting is that we weren't able to do some transfers that we would do just to keep our lines positive. So we're going to run a little differently this year. Like some of our operating lines are going to look negative, but
that's my question. So what you're saying is that we're just going to have a special before the general on that same day. That's the plan right now, or you want to do one in April, or 2 meetings in May, or what's the?
Nope, we're planning on waiting till a town meeting in May. We also have the ability to start transferring, within the last, 60 or 90 days of the fiscal year. So I think we'll be okay. There's nothing, unless an emergency occurred. I don't see that we would have another meeting, especially since we're in the same COVID protocols we were in a couple months ago. So,
Right,
if we're having the meeting May 1st, that's soon enough.
Yeah, but I think that when I say have a special, I think we need to have, well, maybe we can just do everything within the annual on the warrant, but I thought that for the current fiscal year, we needed to have a special. We might do them both on the same night, one right after the other, but my point is you just want to wait until then and then move the money around then and just let it sit there for now, because there's no other reason, nothing else needed to be done with it.
Yeah, we never know how much, we can guesstimate how much free cash we're going to have, but we never plan to use it to subsidize our operating budget. Most times we are putting it into, stabilization and buying equipment, right? So the operating budget isn't really affected at all, as long as something catastrophic doesn't happen.
Okay. So during the current fiscal year, we did add some positions and there was some changes with dispatch and things. Can you walk us through those changes? What's going on right now?
Right. Well, we can highlight that if we go down the budget, because it makes more sense to see the numbers there. So, it's easier to see what we're trying to do, I think. Can everyone read that? Does everyone have a copy of the budget that I sent, or that can actually see those numbers?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll just go very quickly, just stop me. Most of this you've probably heard before. So the moderator is $100, right? Selectmen, that $500 increase is the contractual increase for the auditor. Finance committee, you can see what I was talking about. I've put 7105, which is kind of the balancer in FinCom reserve. And as this 40,000 I put in there for reserve for negotiations, which is for all the contracts we have to negotiate in the next couple months. You can't see on your sheet, but I'll tell you in a minute. There used to be right there 135. The next section used to be accounting. I've moved that entire department. I'll show you in a second. Assessing is flat again, because you won't see a salary change there because it's a contractual position. So until it's negotiated, nothing changes there. They don't have any requests for operating changes. So now we're at 145, and you can see finance department. This was previously the treasurer collector line department. So one of those positions that Mike was just referring to was the creation of a finance director position. And the goal of the finance director and the finance department eventually is to consolidate all of our financial units under one department head. That's currently in the process of happening right now. So you can see that.
Question.
Yep.
In the salary line item, how many salaries are included in that?
3. There's a
144 pays 3 people?
Yes, it pays the finance director, treasurer collector, currently budgeted at 62,000, which is only a 30-hour week position. It pays the assistant treasurer collector 37 hours, so that's $43,000 position, and then an 18-hour municipal clerk. That's about $18,000 a year.
And then the expenses are the accountant, right?
So the previous accountant that we paid, so there's 2 things in here. We used to pay the under treasurer collector, we always budgeted about $5,000 to $10,000 for like part-time staff, busy season clerical person, whatever, right? That's currently where we're paying the interim treasurer and collector out of. So in this budget, I've moved over the entire accounting budget. Stay with me. That budget used to be $58,845. So that's in that line. And also I'm budgeting right now for about $10,000, $13,000 worth of potentially assistance, professional assistance if we have to train or help train the new finance director, municipal, basically overlap to help get them into the position and modified, you know, to help them through. And that I won't know if we'll need it or not, depending on how that plays out. But I've left it in there because I want to have somebody available to help assist that transition. So that's what's in that line. It looks like a big giant change, but it's basically the consolidation of accounting in the treasurer collector's office.
I had a question, Kim. So it's
Yeah.
always difficult when you move in positions to understand what was and what is.
Yep.
So you're saying it's basically a wash
It's
from last year?
it's
Well,
not
what
a
is-
wash.
What is the increase, I guess?
It's going to be about an $18,000 swing once it's all said and done. And the funding for that swing, we approved based upon the consolidation and the changes in dispatch. I can't afford to have a full-time finance director at 40 hours a week. We can't afford something like that in Mendon. So that's why I had to get creative, and we budgeted at a 30-hour at $40 at this point, and we advertised at that range. And my anticipation is we'll get somebody in at 62. As a comparison, before the previous treasurer collector left, we had made her an offer for $77,000, and she turned it down. So we were already we're up 10,000, but it's kind. I don't want to say it's a wash. It's not. It's a little bit of an increase, but we
Yeah.
have absorbed the
It has
increase
been,
within the
but-
budget.
But in fairness, there was, you did shift shift some of the duties around and shift them around again, right?
Well, I've only increased the coverage in the office. That's it at this point. The
But I
finance
mean,
director
wasn't
will have much larger responsibilities than the previous treasurer did.
Right, but
They will.
Wasn't there a point when there was, I want to say it had to do with payroll and things that got moved into that office and to being moved out, and some things are relieved? And
That was
I mean,
that was actually 2 treasurers ago. So
Yeah.
when this most recent treasurer was in the office, we had reduced the hours in the department by 5 for the treasurer and outsourced payroll to Harper's.
One more
And-
question, Kim. So for the extra $18,000 and all this shuffling, what
Mhm.
is the benefit to the town?
Oh, so this is my favorite part. So the town has never had, I want to say besides myself, okay, the town has never had a financial professional, someone with a finance background, with an analysis background, with a forecasting background, a project manager, an actual, multi-department level manager, right? For a $20 million budget, we have over the years basically just promoted somebody to cover the spot, right? So rather than try to do that, I thought I would try to attempt to get creative and see if we could actually pull a financial professional from the finance world and bring some of their expertise in about investing, about, I've done a pretty good job. It's a weird thing to kind of say. I will still be the CFO. There's no change in that. I'm still going to be the primary contact on the budget. But just for example, I've been on Moody's phone calls within the last few years, 6 years, right, twice. And it's basically just me every time providing financial information, to other financial individuals. And quite honestly, I need another person in the room with me. I need another set of eyes. I need another person who can do the actual forecasting or run me a report of any kind. I don't currently have a person on staff who can do that. And I haven't had one since I got here. And it's a weird thing to say, but like oftentimes for the budget or dealing with these documents, I'm sending these documents to other manager friends of mine to just put a second pair of eyes on, because I'm the only one in the building. So if this person comes on board and they have the management experience that we need, some of this I really don't want to get ahead of my skis on, but you know how I like to be efficient and look at position consolidation every opportunity that I can. And in most neighboring communities or in Massachusetts, the finance department consists of multiple departments that are within the town. So I'm just going to use accounting as an example right now, which is when we decided to contract out for accounting, we saved the town $35,000 from the jump, right? And that's by eliminating one full-time position with benefits. If we continue to be able to do that in potentially some other areas, it will pay for itself. And that one professional at the top will be able to manage all of those things. Many towns contract out for their entire assessing department. And certainly that's something we might look at someday. And they would all fall under one person. That would be the goal. But it's going to take the right person to do this. The market right now for financial professionals.
Can I jump in here for a second? Can I
Sure.
interrupt for a second?
Yes. Yes.
Mike, first thing is just a little bit of clarification. Line item 135 has been discontinued. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that 53,000 plus was in it in 2020 is now in the
145.
Yes.
145.
Exactly.
I've been trying to follow you, and again, because of the way we're meeting here, it
It's
is
hard.
pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Mike, I'd like to make a suggestion that Kim put this in some sort of readable report. Everything she said, I'm trying to
Sure.
take notes here, and it's that way there we have something on paper that we can look at and digest.
Yeah,
You know,
I think you're right, Mike, because when we did the position swaps with dispatch in the middle of the year, I think we could all be refreshed on that too. And so maybe I'll do them all together.
I think that would help us out a lot. I mean,
Yeah, no problem. I already have a presentation, a PowerPoint on that, the positions, but we can see how it applies now to this budget.
And Kim, it might help to, I assume the expectation is for this position or this department that there will be efficiencies in the future, possibly savings in the future. I mean, I think the general public should understand that.
Yep.
I assume that's the expectation. Is that true?
Yes, 100%. That's why, I was going to say, there's a real demand in Massachusetts. And I mean, it's difficult to find municipal finance people. It's just a fact. It's a problem. So, I was optimistic that we'd be able to find this type of person that I was looking for, someone with an accounting degree or investment, career, something like this. The other alternative really is just to go back to having a treasurer collector. And quite frankly, I don't think that's doing a service to the town. We need, how long have we operated without 5 and 10 year budget forecast? I mean, it's just, we need a person. And so, I'm optimistic. We have started interviews. I think that there's a great candidate in there. We'll see how it goes. But if not, then I'm going to have to revisit. I had to go out 3 times to even get 10 applicants. I mean, that's how bad the market is.
Okay, why don't we keep moving down here, because I
Okay.
want to talk about these other changes, but if you want to do it within the,
Yeah, it'll
within the process,
It'll be
so-
easier. That's the most complicated one.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
Okay, so we talked about the town clerk, right? You can see the reduction because obviously we
did.
don't have the election. So here at the planning board, this is another one of the positions that was approved mid-year. This is a shared planner position with Millville and Uxbridge that was approved and is currently being recruited by CMRPC. Part-time, 16-hour a week for us.
And so CMRPC is trying to find somebody that's going to provide this service to all 3 towns.
Right. All 3 towns have already signed the IMA to share this person. They'll be primarily housed in Uxbridge, but they will have 1 day a week guaranteed in Mendon, and they will be a planning professional.
Okay. And how
So
does that-
can I
how does that-
ask a question?
Sure.
Are all 3 towns sharing equal amount of hours?
No.
Or,
We got grouped together based upon
it.
each town's shared needs, kind of like some towns
Yep.
want more of an economic development person. We want a straight up bylaw enforcing, writing, following the rules planner with experience.
got it.
And that's what these two towns wanted to.
Okay.
And the shares are kind of based upon need and who can afford what, right? So.
Got it.
And
Okay.
that
So the
cost
person will be full-time, but we'll pay part and the other two towns.
and that
will pay
includes
part.
part
Okay.
of their benefit cost, which the employee will be
Right.
the employee of Uxbridge, so the benefits are on them, which I love. But we
Yeah.
will pay our share, right? We
That's
currently
a
do this
win-win.
same thing
for sure.
with animal control, same way we do it now. So.
Yep. Okay, that's fine. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Keep going, down, 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 up. Keep going, keep going. This police department, the only change there is that's the contractual for the chief, whose contract he's in the middle of a 5-year contract. Then Chief Kessler can talk to you about this mess that is the fire department budget. Go ahead, Bill.
So yeah, I had requested for a 7th position. We'll just put that aside for now, and I'll explain in a couple of minutes. The increase on my line is the contractual increase. In the full-time wages, line A3 there, that includes one of the changes that was made this year for the part-time person on the whole dispatcher thing. But because that position is reporting to me, because part of that time will support the fire department, that's been added in. So that's why that 75,000 on a even basis year to year looks so high. Call salaries are up because of the cost of trying to fill the shifts. We're up to 15 on-call personnel right now, and I also was up to 8 per diem people trying to fill the shifts. And the reason we needed so many is besides not having enough personnel to do the 24/7 coverage, 2 people on duty, because we do need the 7th position to get to that. We've been having to fill that open 1 position, as well as I have 2 people out on very extended injured on duty status. One's been out for 20 months and one's been out for a year. And the person who's been out for a year has to undergo another surgery and so up to a 1-year recovery before they'll be at what's considered a maximum recovery. So in doing all that, the use of those people to fill these shifts, the cost has kind of been creeping up on an hourly basis. It's very hard with the per diem people. I refer to them, and I know this sounds somewhat negative, but they're somewhat transient. And this is their second job, as well as for our on-call people, and it's not always their priority. So it sometimes makes scheduling issues difficult, especially if somebody calls out on short notice. So we end up having to fill it with overtime, which obviously is a very expensive alternative. So this increase of the 11,000 there really it's a melded rate that I was using on a 6-shift basis, which is what that 7th person would have is a 48-hour work week. That's filling those 6 8-hour shifts for people with an EMT basic at $16.32 an hour. One at a per diem medic rate of $25.50, and 1 shift at an overtime rate. And so that calculation just brings out that increase to the $11,000. As far as the request for the 7th person, when I went through and did these numbers, and you compare them to Kim's recommended numbers, which is, a level staffing, the difference for the whole department amounted to just over $21,000. And when I realized that over the last week or so, I've been trying to go through the numbers, and I think that they'd be able to get the 7th person in within Kim's budgeted numbers. And the reason for that is because the cost to, that melded cost that I talked about is upwards of a little over $22 an hour for per diem and on-call people. A career person starts at $23.30, I believe. So we're paying about the same on an hourly basis. Within my numbers, I did have $5,200, I think it was, down in increased operational costs for that seventh person. And I realized that we're going to hire this person from within house. We have several on-call firefighter EMTs who want to make this a career. So I don't need the $4,000 for the gear because they already have gear. And the clothing allowance for on-call people would go away because we don't need them filling shifts anymore. And that would cover the clothing for the permanent person. So that leaves about $16,000 just in budgetary numbers, which I think obviously it would make things a little bit tighter. I try to keep, and again, cushion's not a good word, but a sufficient budget so that we can handle multiple large incidents. We haven't had those. Yep.
This
Go ahead.
full-time wages A3 is an increase of $75,253. And what does that entail?
So within that 75,253 is 56 and change for that administrative person who is part of the whole dispatch deal.
All right. So that administrative person, that's a new position, right?
That was a position that was added, yes, start of January.
And they're within the fire department?
So the position was set up to report to me as the fire chief.
Mhm.
The person is now sitting at the fire station awaiting the dispatch move to the regional dispatch center. Once that happens, she'll be relocated down to the police station where that's going to be the primary public greet point to do that function of the job that it was created for.
So is this 70, some of the 75K, not new money, but transferred from the dispatch budget?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I was trying to get at.
Yes.
It's kind of a recast position because now we had dispatchers that were being paid by the town. Now and I realized it was regionalized with Millville, but now they're going to Metacomet. So we're losing those bodies. And some of the money that's freed up is going to come into here to give you some administrative help.
Can we just maybe take a quick side trip? I know
Yeah.
I just sent you all a different spreadsheet. This is the presentation that we did about the staffing reorg with dispatch, since that's basically the majority of what's left of our conversation. And it'll show Bill's position. It'll show what I'm doing, the finance director. It'll show the planning thing. It's a couple months old, but it'll basically give you the highlights. You know, our deal with dispatch is saving the town over $400,000 a year. Okay, it's going to save us $1.5 million over the next couple of years, $2 million total. So we opted. Here we go. I can't see what's on your screen. Okay, perfect. So let's go all the way down go to slide 5. And then you can go back and see the duties on your own. But this is kind of what we were talking about. So FY21 is the year we're in right now, right? And so we decided to do a half-year funding for these positions. The finance director, I just talked about, right? The additional hours for the assistant treasurer collector to do the day-to-day. Then Bill's assistant, this executive assistant for fire and police, and then the shared planner with benefits. So the total cost for those changes for the current year is about $117,000. Annually, the cost is going to be about $207, right? So for FY22, it's actually a little bit less because I budgeted less, but it's about $200,000. So how are we able to pay for it, right? Just quickly, if you down here, so in 21, this is the funding sources for these positions. We've got 35 in reserve for negotiations. We're going to save a couple months worth of dispatch salaries. We're going to save this much in benefits. that we had this much left over in the treasurer collector salary line after we paid her out, and then we had $20,000 already budgeted in planning. So for this fiscal year, we had 212 available, and we needed 117. Okay, and that left about 95. Next year for 22, assuming they were supposed to leave and be on time and be gone for July, which is still hopefully the case, you know, the numbers change a little bit. This is the full annual cost. You can see up here, cost for 22, 68 plus benefits. Annual, here's how much the assistant costs with benefits. Here's how much the player, these were estimates at the time. They're pretty close to the final, but and this is how we would fund that. Dispatch salaries entirely will go away. The cost for benefits, it will go away. Expenses have been reduced, not entirely, because there will still be some administrative paperwork that has to get done, even though the dispatchers themselves are gone. There'll be paperwork left. The treasurer collector line would have been budgeted at $60,000 this year. Remember I said we had made an offer at 77, 60 is pretty conservative, and we still had that 20 in planning. So we had, when the dispatch deal is done completely and they are gone, we will be would have been saving $426,000 annually for the town. Okay, this was a big win for us. And of that, we're going to spend about 200 on shifting these positions around. So we'll still have about 220 left over that we're going to have available basically, and that's going to start saving us in these next couple of years. And that deal, just so I can add aside, is great work by both chiefs, a little bit of work by myself, mostly by them. But I mean, the state is essentially paying the full cost for the first 3 years, right, Bill? For us to go over to regional. And so Correct. We're basically getting free service for 3 years. Okay, done with this. Unless you have any specific questions about any of this. I know it's a lot of information, but now you have this presentation, and obviously you can look at them on your own and ask me questions, email me back or call me, whatever, right? And I'll still do one for you, Mike, about this fiscal year with the real actuals.
Thank you.
Okay, so scroll down, because I think that the next thing is dispatch that's on here. Nope, building, all right. Fire. No building, okay. No changes on any of these. Like I said, basically because they're not in contracts, we'll give them a cost of living increase potentially if we do. Nothing has changed in any of these.
Can I ask, is
Yep.
this, do we still have the same building inspector we did before?
We have the same staffing. We still have the building commissioner, which is John Erickson, still in the role. One of the employees has been out on medical leave, but John Erickson has been filling the position himself for most of the hours. He's been on staff with us as part of the office for 6 years since I've been here.
But wasn't he the assistant building inspector?
He was the building commissioner, and then we had a building inspector. Because the commissioner was the one that was certified.
So we
have two that are certified.
What I'm getting at is that we lost one of them, right?
No.
Okay, so are we still paying him? So we're paying him what we were paying the other one.
Correct. They're interchangeable at this point, just providing the function for the town.
Okay.
All right. Anything else on this page? Scroll down. Scrolling down, scrolling down. Okay, so here's dispatch. I talked a little bit about this, but right now, because we're not certain about the move-in date entirely for this dispatch deal, we are tentatively holding 6 months worth of, operations and salary costs here, just in case, okay? We're not anticipating needing that. We certainly could reduce it down to 3 months at this point and feel comfortable, which maybe we do, but all the other towns within Metacomet with us they are funding their budgets their operation budget for those towns in the same way, 6 months of dispatch this way, okay? So we may know more before we finalize this in March. We'll definitely know more before we go to the floor in May, okay? But for now, we're budgeting for it. Okay, keep going.
Okay.
Like I said, I gave them 315, which is the 50/50 number. That's 3% to Mendon Upton and nothing for BVT. They've decreased the last couple of years, so maybe we'll get a break there. And then down here, here's the one thing that I was talking about, my request. So I've put the extra 20,000 in for road materials, right? But I also wanted to put in a capital equipment replacement reserve, which would have been 105. But if that 105 appears somewhere, that's the first place I'm going to be looking to put it in. But for now, I took it out because we don't have it. Snow and ice. I just want to put a little asterisk here. So you can look at, I can't see, I guess that's FY19, the actual 234, right? And then the following year, what is it? Yeah, 19 actual. So the following year, right? It's only 148. We budget 75%, right, of the average of the previous 5 years, okay? This is a big swing between these numbers, right? We have to budget what we budgeted the previous fiscal year, which is 194. If we used the averages, we'd be actually budgeting more like 160 something. But next year, well, when this 5 year gets bumped out, this 148, this snow and ice number is going to go up about $50,000. Okay, because our out years here are much higher than this one off year, right? Unless we get a miracle low year again. So just keep it in mind for future budget years that we're going to get hit in snow and ice somewhere. Okay. But for now, 194 is I'm happy with. All right, keep going. Water department, that's the budget's pretty straightforward. Nothing really to see there. Same thing on salaries going down. This is all the same. The Board of Health, this is all trash contracts, and then a new contract with Salmon Health Visiting Nurse Association to help with our distribution of the vaccine. They have requested an increase of $3,500 a month during the pandemic, and so we have to pay them, and that is what's in here. Of course, we will put in to subsidize as much as we can with CARES, but for now, we're putting at least what we know is coming up in this budget. Rolling down.
Now, wasn't there something, is this, am I looking somewhere else, senior center, or is council on aging not where that new, there's a new admin at the senior center, right?
It's not new. It's an existing position that just got hired. It's a replacement of a previous employee.
Oh, okay.
Now, I am going to, one of the changes that I'm making right now is, which will probably have no budgetary impact actually to them, is I want to reclassify their outreach worker position to more of an admin outreach out, so they can do additional duties, which will bump them up about $2 an hour, but will actually have them doing more complicated things. I'm working on that right now. It's more of a staffing issue than it is a budgetary one. We'll keep going. Library is always the same, with the exception of you got to adjust the books line budget based upon the total amount of the budget as a whole. The salary increase there is because the library director has an individual employment contract and he's in the middle of that, so there's an increase. Parks and Rec, same thing. Very minimal change there. Keep going. Historic is fine. Here's the debt. Okay, the numbers are the correct. I don't know. These are the accurate numbers. In the previous years, we always messed with the formula to show interest. I don't know, interest looked different than the principal payment. I don't know why. These are the right payments. I don't know why we did it that way, but this is what they actually are. It looks like a bit of a change, but none of this is unanticipated. These are all the same numbers that I've had for a number of years. They just look a little bit different. And then
Now,
yep.
I know at one point you and I had a conversation about the retiree costs of health insurance.
Yeah.
And we were budgeting it or funding it at a higher level than what the state requires. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I'm almost there. Just want to, I already talked about Worcester County retirement just right there, and now we're on health insurance, and I want to talk about this because this is something we should feel good about. And which is, we're in the middle of a pandemic and I'm showing reduction in health insurance, okay? Because we successfully negotiated last year a 2-year guaranteed agreement with our health provider, Maya, that they would lock in our rates for 2 years, and that 3% for 2 years, right? 2 and change. So in addition to the reductions that we're going to see from dispatchers leaving, we also had a lock on our rates. So this is the first time in I don't know how long we can lower the number in health insurance, which is amazing to me, what the timing of it. But yes, within that number, we have 43 active persons for the town, and 8 of those actives are early retired. And the early retired essentially means, too young to be officially moved over. And we still pay 75%. The town covers 75% of their medical costs, even though they are no longer working. Typical Medicaid retire is 50-50. So yes, we could go to the state and we could ask. I mean, it's not even a law. It's personal preference, actually, because it's the town's prerogative. It's a policy. It's not a law. And I have done an extensive analysis about this, about how it's going to cost us millions of dollars a year to continue to carry retired employees and their spouses, et cetera, et cetera. Depending on the year, I mean, and I'm just talking about dropping from 75 to 50. I'm not talking about entirely, of course, but it's more of a political decision some years, because it looks like you're not appreciating, the people who were with you for a long time. And so, luckily we haven't ever been in such an dire financial straits since I've been here that we've ever really had to look at it. But me, I certainly like to look at anything that might save us some money. So that is a possibility. Again, if something were ever to go sideways, I have a couple places that I would definitely go to look for some money. And then, so that's the Worcester County Retirement is the actual, those all came in early this year, which is great. The property and casualty insurance is
just a question.
Yeah.
How many people do you think that would impact?
I think it's like 14. But we're talking, let me give you an example without giving you any names of the things that so we have an early retired employee, right? We also cover their spouse. Let's say their spouse is 15 years younger than the employee. We continue to cover the spouse well after the actual employee was qualified to receive, right? Whether they remarry or whatever, we're paying for 75% of that person, whether they're divorced or not, right? Some of those, so someone's ex-spouse could cost the town, $500,000. And it's just, someday could show you all the analysis. It would make your head spin. Okay. But what I've heard,
spinning.
and I've been to council about it, and I've talked to other towns about it. Apparently, this is another one of those municipal things that just is. So, so that's a whole meeting in itself of me ranting. So just keep going. Like I said, we've taken on a bunch of new properties this year, which the town is responsible to cover. Trask property, Inman Hill, we got to cover these things when we take them on, and they have an impact. We are still paying higher premiums because we have vacant building at Morrison Drive, and we have a vacant rectory, and none of that's good for insurance purposes, but it is what it is. Okay.
All right.
And then,
What are the new buildings that we took on?
So the Trask property we just took on.
Yeah.
It has a house on it. We have general liability. I think I can't remember. Because we got to cover that. The rectory, anytime a building is vacant and it's not being used for something,
Right.
Mike can attest to this, we got to pay a higher premium because the building's vacant. And so we pay for Morrison Drive and we pay for the rectory. We pay for the stuff that's sitting empty. We try to say that we're using them, but they don't always fall for it.
So Morrison Drive, that's what was going to be the police station?
Exactly.
Is that what you're talking about? That building? Okay, got it. Okay, I got it now.
Yep.
Thank
All
you.
right. Keep going. We're almost there, people. We're almost there. Right? We are. Okay, none of this has changed. These are the grants and the things that we have to budget every year. That's all the same. The assessors want a little more in overlay. Fine, it's $15,000 more. We gave it to them. I told you, local 8 assessments are down right now. I think they'll probably come back up, and that'll be even. And then that's it. You can scroll down. It's the end of the budget. Like I said, looks great right now. Currently balanced, right? Yeah, you should have to cross your fingers and knock on wood, right? But
So
know.
just to refer back to something you said earlier, so the
Yeah.
BBT budget has been down even
Mhm.
though their target share has been up.
But their enrollment of Mendon students has been going down. They've had less the last 2 years.
Yes, got it. Okay.
And again, we don't normally get their numbers until in the middle of March, like when we're trying to finalize. So we're scrambling at the last minute.
Yeah, got it. Okay. What about Norfolk Aggie? Do we know?
I haven't heard anything.
That's built into
Mendon Upton.
Mendon Upton. So that
Got
would be
it.
part of
Okay.
the budget.
That's right.
Okay. Anything else for Kim?
I'm going to go wherever that picture is.
Yeah. How about a run on
Yeah.
the beach? Was that what you were
Totally.
suggesting, that Kim needs to needs some de-stressing?
Yeah, right.
No,
But I'm
I
trying
would
to-
like to go there too. I need
Yeah,
some
isn't that
de-stressing.
great?
Listen, I feel pretty good right now. I mean, we were all anticipating, I shouldn't say, I mean, how bad this fiscal year was going to be. And when I started putting these numbers together, I mean, I was relieved. Okay. So
Pleasantly surprised.
yeah, I mean, maybe the true impacts we're really going to feel the following fiscal year, but I got my eyes on that already. But like, as far as I'm concerned, because there's so few department requests and there really aren't a lot of changes, this has been a very easy budget year so far. And I shouldn't say it, but it's true. So
Yeah,
let's
knock
hope
on
it
wood.
stays that way.
Knock on wood.
I mean, we're a couple weeks ahead of where we ever are with the budget, which is shocking to me. So.
Good
Kim,
job,
I
Kim.
had a question on the CARES and the
Sure.
funding that's come to Mendon. Is that
Mhm.
being used, I take it?
Yeah, so we got about $540,000, give or take, right? It might be 520. I always get that second number confused. And we've been able to use it for a bunch of different things over the course of the year. You have to has to be very specific to the list of categories that you can use it for. And so our first request was for about $320 worth of stuff for the municipality, PPE supplies, technology, this stuff like that. Then the schools came in, BVT wanted 25 grand or 28. We gave them that for technology. Then Mendon Upton came in and they wanted 200,000 for iPads. They got it. We've still got about, 100 and change left. I've got some outstanding requests. The way it works is we basically put in the estimates of what we're going to need. They send us the money and then we keep track of the spending of it. And whatever we don't use that we requested, we got to give back. So, I can't tell you the number of meetings where it comes up when people are saying to me, well, let's just use that CARES money for this thing. And I'm like, that doesn't qualify at all. Right? It's like they're very specific categories. And, it's a strange mix because you'd think it would be like 100% PPE, but it's not. It's like 25% for PPE and 100% for technology. So it's a little strange, But we're doing fine. I'm hoping for another allocation soon. Like I said, I've got plenty of places in this budget that I could look at with that money.
Okay. So I think you should be able to see on the screen the meeting minutes from last time that we need to approve. Thank you, Kim. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. So if we want to just review these minutes back from June and when you're ready, if somebody can give me make a motion to accept it.
These minutes are from December.
Approval minutes, June. Which ones did you send me, Jean?
It says Tuesday,
Yeah, that's
December
the
8th.
Meeting we had. Hold on. I sent you December 8th, 2020, which is the last meeting we had. The meeting before that was the annual town meeting in June.
Right.